Hi there, knife people. Hello, lady and gentlemen. Tonight we are going to look at D2. Wow, D2 steel. Why are we doing this? I noticed lately a lot of quality brands create budget knives with D2 blade steel, and people go like, D2. Well, I remember the day when D2 was a super steel. There are a lot of misconceptions, like a lot of people think it's as non-corrosion resistant as any carbon steel. That is not true. Other people think that it's brittle. That is also not always true, because there are ways to make it a much tougher steel than most people seem to believe. I selected 5 knives from my personal collection that are made out of D2 steel. Kershaw Layup. It came out a few months ago. Crossbar lock, partially assisted, and by partially I mean when you close it, it drops part of the way and then it's very easy to close it. Demko AD20.5 with a shark lock, and it's also in its older form with the D2 steel. Iridium. It's been out for a couple of years. It's incredibly popular, probably Kershaw's bestseller in the last 2 years. Mini Iridium. This is a knife that I've been putting a smile on my face for about a week. That's how long ago I got it. I got it on the first day as it was released. And this knife is deceivingly small. The blade is just a hair under 3 inches. Anyway, and the last but not least, I've been discovering Boker and Boker Plus as a brand, and this is a knife that I actually admire very much. Maybe because of its sort of Art Deco styling, maybe because it's a large knife and I'm partial to the large knives. Let me put it next to the Iridium. I suspect that not all D2 is created equal. I think there's some still out there that is made in an old way where they pour molten steel into an ingot and then roll it out. Dr. Larry Thomas in his article pointed out that there is a process called spray formed type D2, and that's probably gaining momentum out there in the world. It used to be CPM product, but I think there are other companies that are doing it now. Notably, Artisan came up with a spray formed version of HCR13 called RPM 9. And then there is a particle metallurgy D2, which I encountered on New York Claymore knives by Benchmade, and that was a very tough steel. It passed all my torture tests. I am calibrating my devices, starting with a microscope. What you see on the right are 1mm hash marks. By measuring the distance between them with a measuring tape, I get basically 10 centimeters or 100 millimeters, which means my microscope is set to 10 micron resolution. Hopefully this will be enough resolution to see the grain structure of the steel and determine what manufacturing process did it undergo. Another thing about D2, a lot of manufacturers play games with it and heat treated cheaply at a lower Rockwell value to give you this extra toughness. But the whole point of even having a D2 steel blade is edge retention. The steel was designed to cut other steels, so it has extremely high wear resistance, which translates into the edge retention. So when you heat treated subpar, you sort of give up any advantage of even having this steel. If you are a subscriber, by now you know what this sound means. I'm calibrating my hardness tester, or rather verifying that it did not lose previous calibration. I'm striking the calibrating surface 5 times. The nominal HRC hardness is 58.7, and in a second you will see the average of 5 strikes being 59.2, which is half a point above the nominal. So going forward, I'll have to subtract half a point to give you a more accurate result. The first knife we're putting under the microscope today is Kershaw Layup. And not to mess up my calibration, I am moving the entire microscope to the appropriate focal distance rather than adjusting the resolution of the lens. What you can see here is grain structure. Yes, the surface has some kind of glass bead finish, but you can still see molecular structure showing through. Just like in Dr. Larry Thomas's article about D2 steel. On the left, the photos represent different types of D2. From top to bottom, they are traditional ingot steel, spray form, and powder metallurgy D2. Zooming in 2x, we'll be looking at 5 micron resolution, just like the first two photos. And to me, it actually looks like the spray form steel in the middle. And if that's what they use, why don't they announce it? The Hype Smasher. It uses a 2.5 pound steel bar that strikes the blade with 80 pounds of force at 3.8 miles per hour velocity, 2 3/4, which translates into 220 inch-pound moment. Which is equivalent to a 30th percentile male backstriking a blade in a 12-inch constrained space. Definitely good test. Time to check heat treat. We all know that the ideal spot or ideal zone for D2 is between 60.5 and 61.5 HRC. Although many mass manufacturers settle for much lower heat treat because of their concern for warranty claims. You see, at lower heat treat, D2 is a lot tougher, by as much as 50% sometimes. The whole reason, though, that knife makers started using D2 is its wear resistance and edge retention properties, which are peaking at 61 HRC. Although Dr. Thomas's article points out that a spray form D2 has both higher toughness and wear resistance, both of which translate into longevity of your edge. So at 59.4 Rockwell, and without any certainty that it is a spray form steel, I'm going to call it borderline anemic. All right, I dwelled on it long enough. Let's move to the next blade, which is Demko AD20.5, also in D2 steel. This knife is made in Taiwan, so I presume the steel is sourced there too. Let's put it under the microscope and see what we can see. I'm a little bit at a loss because it looks very similar to what I saw in Kershaw. Is it possible they're sourcing those steels at the same place? Still, even with the larger carbon inclusions, it still looks closer to the spray form D2 than either ingot or powder. I wish there was a better way to verify. This is the first time I'm introducing the Shark Lock to the Hype Smasher. Let's see how it does. You know, I am not surprised. I'll tell you why in a second. You see, Andriy Demko is a Ukrainian name. And it's a common name at that. I bet there's 10,000 Demkos fighting zombies in the Ukrainian forces. And now let's see what Demko delivered as far as hardness goes in the knife that built the reputation for this brand. While I'm testing it, may I remind you that this tester leaves tiny indentations, divots on the blade. And those are my own knives from my personal collection. Nobody provided them to me as a sample. Every comment you write, every share and like expand my viewership and help me build up a stronger channel. And a special thanks for those donating super thanks. I am humbled by your generosity. Well, look at that. Go Demko. Spot on, 61 Rockwell. Are you seeing this, Kershaw people? How about the super popular Iridium? This blade has a high satin finish, so I have to find a spot that does not have machining marks. And I find it on a flat spot right above the primary bevel. Would you look at this? There's no even need to deliberate. With carbides that large, it can only be a traditional ingot steel. Iridium is a noble metal with high reflectivity and high hardness. In fact, it's the second most dense metal on Earth. But it comes at a price of being very brittle. So why did the marketing geniuses at Kershaw decide to name a knife that comes in a subdued colors and finishes and is very tough, as you can see, after a shiny brittle metal? Let's try it again. Misstrike. Okay. Yep. Okay. That one kind of low. So the average is 58.1, which actually means 57.6. If I'm generous, I'll throw away the first and the last strike, which will give me about 58.5. For ingot steel and mediocre heat treat, this knife is awfully popular. And speaking of popular, or about to become hugely popular, we're taking a look at Mini Iridium that just came out about a week ago. I have to say, this is a very nice little knife. Looking at consistency in distribution of various molecules and also very large size of some of them, I think it is a traditional poured in ingot steel, but a high quality one. You can still see the structure even though it's partially obscured by the tumble finish. I probably shouldn't do it to the smaller knife, because if it fails, I'll be getting 20 comments on how small knives aren't supposed to do this. But then if it doesn't fail, everyone who already bought it will be like, yeah. And to give everyone food for thought on what a well-designed knife should or shouldn't do, any questions on this topic? Write them in the comments. Still functions. Back to the grind. I can kind of see already where it's going, and I'm going to admit I'm a little disappointed. For about 60 bucks in this size knife, let us have some fun. Give us a little more edge retention. I'm not sure why this knife has to be under 60 HRC. Very anemic. But that's what they do at Kershaw. Their magnet cut is on the softer side too, as I found out on Bel Air. So our average being 58.7, or in reality 58.2, means you're going to need a good sharpener. The name of the next knife is as long as the knife is large. This is Boker Plus JB Stout Lateralis. And hands down, this is the most value I've seen in a $100 knife. It's like a heavy-duty, badass knife, kind of blend of Strider, Hinder, and Medford all in one. Let's see how that D2 looks. Well, I don't even need to put up the pictograms from Dr. Larry Thomas' book. You can clearly see it's a traditional ingot D2. Here, take a look. Every possible imperfection that Dr. Thomas mentions in his book can clearly be visible here. I am not overly concerned because the blade geometry well compensates for steel's imperfections. This is the first time I'm testing a frame on the Hype Smasher. This type of lock is designed to be constrained by your gripping hand. Your hand's supposed to and the way the knife is mounted in this picture. The lock bar is constrained on just as your hand would grip it. But if you don't think this particular test was fair, don't hesitate and write it. As far as I'm concerned, this knife is a pretty well designed item. Because of all the cool features on the blade, I could not find a large enough flat spot to test it for hardness, so I had to take the knife apart, and now I'm going to test it at the back, at the tank. I'll venture to say that most, if not all, budget knives are ground pre-heat treat, which leads to then slight deformations after the heat treat. Now ready, we're about to get the read on the Everett. And it is 58.5, so 58 with a correct. For those of you still with me, here's some bonus material. I am going to check grit sizes on the factory edge for all 5. And that is easier said than done because I actually have to count how many striations fit into 1 millimeter. For Kershaw Layup, it's 35 striations per millimeter, which equates to about F220 grit. Demko AD20.5 is next. Based on a striation count, it's been sharpened with the F320 grit. Next up, Kershaw Iridium. This one is equivalent to F280. And now Mini Iridium. Also F280. I will explain what F means in a minute. And it's about the same for the Boker plot. It is also F280. You see the Federation of European Abrasive Producers, or FIPA, uses letter F for abrasive stones as opposed to sandpaper. These closely match to American ANSI standard for abrasives. And ANSI, of course, stands for American National Institute of Standards. And here they are, F320 on top and F280 on the bottom. And this is how your stones are most likely marked on your, say, Work Sharp Precision Adjust tool or whatever tool you're using. And here's extra bonus. Those are the apexes of all these 5 knives, starting with the Kershaw Layup, Demko AD20.5, the full-size Kershaw Iridium, the Mini Kershaw Iridium, and the JB Stout Design Boker Plus. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was a long video. but I'm going to rumble for a little while longer. The reason is, before this video, or right around the time the video will be published, my channel will hit 8,000 subscribers. That's a big tribe. And the reason I welcome new subscribers by saying welcome to the tribe is because that's what we are. People that watch my content, they're looking for something above and beyond just, how the knife flicks. Together we are making a difference. We're making our community more coherent. We're coming up with much more consistent ways to test, evaluate, and describe knives. And I'm not doing it myself. A lot of my ideas are your ideas. They come from questions and comments that I always read all of them, reply to nearly all of them. Which brings me to the next point. The National Knife Day is August 24th, which happens to be my birthday. So all this was fated. And the best birthday present for me would be another 4,000 subscribers by August 24th. That would be great. To do that, I'm going to ask you for a couple of favors. Firstly, whenever you watch my video, go in the comments and see what other viewers have to say. There are a lot of smart people that commenting on my videos. I'm humbled by how smart and knowledgeable they are. And if you don't read their comments, you're probably missing out on some wisdom. Also, I will ask you, when you watch a video on a different channel, and it's about something that I covered on my channel, make a comment there. This way, other viewers will be exposed to the existence of this independent, unaffiliated channel. So, thank you again. All my subscribers have been with me. My channel is only 13 months old. And those who just recently subscribed. Let's see where it takes us.